Hey, welcome to class. I'm Reed Winfrey and I'll be your instructor. Just wanted to show you a couple of things about what the main thing we're going to do here in figure drawing class is learn how to think through a drawing and draw a proper gesture and use that to build forms that we're trying to build that look like a person. If you've been drawing a lot, and many of you have drawn a whole bunch, you've sort of been drawing figures sort of like this and possibly and get an ear on him and maybe a hat, and you probably work your way down and think about what this guy might be wearing. And I'm working in Photoshop here. It looks a little different from what you do with the pencil. And you work your way down here and you think of some version of a foot, and you work your way back up and you come back down this way and you think of another version of another foot and you work your way back up this way. And if you're like a lot of my students, you'll save yourself some trouble and just put those hands in the pocket so you don't have to worry about it. And that's the way you get around a figure. I'm actually scribbling a lot more than you do in this piece, but you're thinking about an outline first. I want to think about this a different way. When I do a drawing of a figure, whoops, we're trying to get up here, I'm thinking about this shape first and foremost all the time. The gesture of your body in profile goes like this. So that's what I'm doing. And then I'm making a secondary gesture that looks like this, that's more like a leg. My Photoshop's lagging a little bit, which is a little bit frustrating, but you get the idea. And this is how I'm beginning my drawing. What I'm drawing here is really the rib cage, and then you have a pelvis that sort of comes like this, and there's this little funny little bone and another bone here. This moves at this angle, and this moves back at that angle. So that's what I'm trying to get across here. If I make my line a little fatter so you can see it better, I'm drawing this shape. And you may say to yourself, well, that's really not the shape that I see when I'm looking at a profile. And we're not drawing the shapes that we see, we're drawing the shapes that are actually there. So I'm going to get rid of that big fat line, and I'll show you what happens next. In a profile situation, I'm going to come right down the anatomy, and we're going to learn the anatomy. This line right here is the line of the pelvis. This line straight back here is gluteus maximus. I can then move down to where I think the knee might be, and I know the leg is narrower at the knee than it is at the thigh, and I'll move myself out into a potential foot. I'll put in a little anatomy that represents a calf muscle. And I'm going to leave this guy's arm out for the time being because it would be in the way, but he's got a big shoulder muscle right there, and I'm pretty much there. If I want him to face you a little bit, I'll make a notation for where I think his nose might be and his two ears, and I can add a neck, and we're in business. The nice thing about this form is that it's easy to turn, and anything that's similar to a profile is going to be drawn the same way. So here I'm just going to turn the guy a little bit, and we'll get him stepping backwards with this leg, and I'm just going to shade it a tiny bit and not even really finish it for a gestural drawing. So you can see once I get my head moved over to where it goes, we'll go back to brush now. I'll pull this back, and I can have this person looking in a slightly different direction with the nose there, and now I can only see one ear, and now I have this pose going, and now I do have room to put in an arm. The arm is a gestural shape. It's going to come down to a sort of gestural hand. I don't know what this guy's exactly doing, but it's a shape that's wider at the shoulder. It narrows down. It widens out again at the elbow, and we're in business. If I need to put the suggestion of another arm and back, that's all I'm going to do. So I'm doing it a little differently than maybe you've thought of in the past. The one thing that, and I can easily finish this drawing. I can do as much as I want to fluff it out and put in a few details, make a foot that's a little more realistic. Anything that I want to do, I can do. But the gist of it is that I got to this place extremely quickly, and it's fairly accurate. I wouldn't in a drawing situation draw the original thing first. I would do it a little bit like this. So I'm still seeing that shape. It's still there, but there's a spine in it. And the spine is always going to lead to this little sacral triangle, and there's always going to be a pelvis in there, and so on. So now I can still do what I wanted to do. Here's the head up here somewhere. If a person is carrying more weight, no problem. I'll just add that weight to them as I draw. I won't draw this part that I'm erasing first. I'll come right after it. But I'm still thinking of this essential shape, and you must, by, by the end of this class, you must know how to draw it. If it's a girl and I can see a sense of breast in there, that goes in. If this needs to come forward now, I can shift and move really easily. Problem with drawing outline drawings is that once you put it in, you're not going to move it. I know this from experience, and it's just human nature. So this is the shape. I'm going to draw it again. Oops. It follows the gestural movement of the body, and it involves this, moving right down along the rib cage, this line that follows the lower, your belly, what's called rectus abdominis, this line that follows the extensors of the spine, and then around, and then down as far as the knee, and then at the knee, I'm going to put a shallow C curve and a little notation for the foot. Doesn't matter at this point. And then some sense of the shape and size of the head, including the hair if they've got a nice hairstyle that I can use. That's what we're going to do in this class. And I'm going to go over and over and over and over and over these things. Now I'll turn this guy a little bit towards you this way. Now we can see this other foot moving forward. But if you can study just this little introduction a little bit and start to get your brain around it, where you're seeing that it's possible to do some scribbling, knowing that we can get our erasers involved at any time that we want and do a little cleaning, then you're going to be able to handle this class. This is really the most important thing that I can show you about drawing the figure, doing it rapidly, and so on and so forth. Issues like shading and light and dark we will work with really early. You've had it already in sketching class, how to light a sphere. We'll talk about that as well. The human figure is no different. So go get your gear. Let's show up to class with a sketchbook and a 2B pencil and maybe a slightly harder pencil to take notes. And I'm excited. I can't wait to get going with you guys.